The morning sun streamed through the windows of Grand Avenue Mall, casting long shadows across the polished floor. 16-year-old Zoe Taylor adjusted her backpack and took a deep breath before pushing open the heavy glass door of Elite Fashions, one of the most exclusive boutiques in the city. The rich scent of perfume and new fabric hit her immediately. Zoe wasn't the type to get nervous, but today was different. Tomorrow night was the National Honor Society induction ceremony, and for once she wanted something special to wear. She had saved up for months from her weekend job at the library, carefully setting aside tips and part of each paycheck. "I deserve this," she whispered to herself, fingers brushing against the envelope of cash in her jacket pocket. $375. Every cent earned through hard work. Inside the boutique, soft classical music played as mannequins posed in outfits that cost more than most people's monthly rent. A few well-dressed women browsed the racks, sales associates hovering nearby with practiced smiles. No one approached Zoe. She wandered toward a display of dresses, drawn to a deep blue one with subtle silver threading. It reminded her of Starlight. The price tag made her wince, $295, but it was within her budget. Just barely. "Can I help you find something?" a voice finally asked, though the tone suggested the opposite of helpfulness. Zoe turned to see a woman in her 40s with platinum blonde hair pulled into a tight bun. Her name tag read Diane Brooks, manager. Everything about her seemed sharp. Her cheekbones, her elbows, the points of her stiletto heels, and especially her gaze as it traveled from Zoe's simple sneakers up to her natural curly hair. "I'm looking for a dress for a school ceremony," Zoe explained, smiling despite the woman's unwelcoming demeanor. "Something like this blue one, maybe?" Diane's eyebrows arched. "That dress is $295, I know. I can afford it." Zoe tried to keep her voice steady. The sound was neither agreement nor disagreement, just a noise that somehow managed to convey doubt. "Well, feel free to look around. Let me know if you need anything." She didn't walk away, though. Instead, she hovered just a few feet behind Zoe, arms crossed. As Zoe moved to another rack, Diane followed. When she examined a different dress, the manager was right there, watching her hands as if expecting them to stuff something into her backpack. Other customers browsed freely. Only Zoe had a shadow. After 15 uncomfortable minutes, Zoe found another option. A lovely emerald green dress with cap sleeves. "Could I try this on?" she asked. Diane hesitated, then reluctantly nodded. "Fitting room is in the back. I'll need to check your bag first." "Excuse me?" Zoe blinked in surprise. "Store policy. We need to check all bags before customers enter fitting rooms." Zoe looked around. A woman carrying a designer purse twice the size of Zoe's backpack had just entered a fitting room. No one had checked her bag. "That lady didn't have her purse checked," Zoe pointed out quietly. Diane's lips thinned. "Are you questioning our policies?" "No, listen, girl. This is an exclusive boutique. We have certain standards. If you're uncomfortable with that, perhaps you should shop somewhere more your style, like the mall discount stores." Heat rushed to Zoe's face. She knew exactly what Diane meant by your style. It had nothing to do with fashion and everything to do with the color of her skin. "I'd like to try on this dress." "Please," Zoe said firmly, refusing to be intimidated. Her dad had always taught her to stand her ground with dignity. With obvious reluctance, Diane grabbed the dress from Zoe's hands. "Fine, I'll prepare a room." While waiting, Zoe texted her best friend. "At Elite Fashions, manager treating me like a criminal. But the dresses are beautiful." A middle-aged couple browsing nearby gave her sympathetic looks. The woman, dressed in an expensive-looking pantsuit, frowned at Diane's back as she marched away with Zoe's dress. "Room 3 is ready," Diane announced when she returned. "Leave your backpack out here. I have money in there," Zoe explained. "Can't I just take it with me?" "Absolutely not. Either leave the bag or leave the store." Fighting back tears of frustration, Zoe unzipped her backpack and pulled out the envelope with her money. "Fine, but I'm taking this with me. What's in that envelope?" Diane demanded. "My money for the dress. Let me see it." "What?" "No, it's my money." Diane stepped closer, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "Listen, I've been watching you since you came in. You've been acting suspicious, touching everything, sending text messages probably to your friends about what to steal. Now you have a mysterious envelope. Show me what's in it or I'm calling security." The couple who had been watching now moved closer. "Excuse me," the woman said. Is there a problem here? No problem, Diane replied with a tight smile. Just following store procedures. It looked like you were harassing this young lady, the man said, his voice carrying enough that other shoppers turned to look. I was not. I just want to try on a dress for my National Honor Society ceremony. Zoe interrupted, her voice cracking slightly. I saved up for months. The woman's face softened. Honor Society? Congratulations! That's quite an achievement. Before Diane could respond, another customer called for assistance with sizes. The manager hesitated, clearly torn between continuing to monitor Zoe and helping a customer who actually matched her preferred clientele. Fine, she snapped at Zoe. Room 3, 5 minutes max. In the fitting room, Zoe's hands trembled as she changed into the emerald dress. Despite everything, when she looked in the mirror, she smiled. The dress fit perfectly, making her dark skin glow and highlighting her athletic build from years of swimming. For a moment, she forgot about Diane and imagined walking across the stage tomorrow night, her parents beaming with pride. Her phone buzzed with a text from her dad. How's the shopping going? Found anything good? Before she could reply, a sharp knock rattled the fitting room door. Time's up, Diane called. I just need another minute, Zoe replied, quickly taking a photo in the mirror. Now, Diane insisted. Other customers are waiting. There were no other customers waiting. Zoe had checked when she entered the fitting room area. She sighed and began changing back into her jeans and t-shirt. The door suddenly rattled again, this time with Diane trying the handle. I said time's up. I'm changing, Zoe called back, hurriedly pulling her shirt over her head. The door flew open. Diane had used her key to unlock it. Zoe gasped, grabbing her jeans to cover her legs, still wearing only her shirt and underwear. What are you doing? She cried. I'm not dressed. What are you doing? Diane countered, eyes scanning the small room as if looking for hidden merchandise. Where's the dress? It's right there on the hook. Zoe pointed, mortified as she tried to maintain her dignity. Diane's eyes narrowed as she spotted something on the floor, Zoe's phone, which had fallen when she was startled. Were you taking pictures? That's against store policy, too. It was just for my dad. That's it. Diane reached in and grabbed Zoe's arm, pulling her from the fitting room while Zoe clutched her jeans against herself. You're out of here. Let me get dressed first. Zoe pleaded, trying to pull away. The commotion drew attention. The couple from earlier appeared in the doorway to the fitting area, along with a store employee who looked horrified. Diane, what are you doing? The employee asked. This girl was taking pictures of merchandise to plan a theft, Diane declared, still gripping Zoe's arm. I want her out of my store. I was not. Zoe protested, tears now streaming down her face. I was sending a picture to my dad. Let her get dressed, the woman from the couple said firmly. This is outrageous. Diane finally released Zoe's arm, leaving red marks on her skin. 1 minute. Then security escorts you out. The fitting room door closed again and Zoe collapsed onto the small bench, shaking. She'd never been so humiliated in her life. As quickly as she could, she pulled on her jeans and shoes, gathered her things, and wiped at her tears. When she emerged, Diane stood waiting with a security guard. The couple who had tried to help were arguing with another store employee. She was in her underwear, the woman was saying. Your manager dragged her out half-dressed. Zoe walked past them, head high despite her tear-stained face. As she passed Diane, the manager grabbed her backpack. I need to check this before you leave, she insisted. No. Zoe pulled back. But Diane's grip was strong. In the struggle, the backpack slipped from both their hands and crashed to the floor. Zoe's phone, which she'd hastily stuffed into an outside pocket, fell out and skidded across the polished floor, the screen cracking with a sound that seemed to echo through the now silent store. Zoe stared at her broken phone, then at Diane, who didn't look the least bit sorry. You broke my phone, Zoe said quietly. You dropped your bag. Not me, Diane replied coldly. Now leave before I call the police. The security guard, looking uncomfortable, picked up the phone and handed it to Zoe. Miss, maybe it's best if you go. With as much dignity as she could muster, Zoe took her damaged phone, collected her backpack and walked toward the exit. The store had gone completely silent, all eyes on her. Just before reaching the door, she turned back. Her voice was steady despite the tears still wet on her cheeks. My father always taught me that how people treat you says more about them than it does about you, she said. I hope everyone here remembers that. Then she pushed through the glass doors into the bright afternoon sunlight, pulled out her cracked phone and called her father. Dad? Her voice finally broke. Can you come get me? Something happened, and bring Uncle Thomas with you. What Diane didn't know was that Zoe's Uncle Thomas wasn't really her uncle at all. He was her father's best friend since college days, and now one of the most famous basketball players in history, known as much for his business empire as for his legendary career on the court. And he did not take kindly to anyone mistreating his best friend's daughter. Zoe sat on a bench outside the mall, her thumb gently tracing the spider web of cracks across her phone screen. Each passing minute felt like an hour as she waited for her dad to arrive. A group of teenage girls walked by. Laughing and swinging shopping bags from stores, Zoe now wondered if she'd ever feel comfortable entering again. Her phone buzzed with an incoming call. Her dad. I'm in the north parking lot. Honey, he said, his deep voice instantly calming her. Where exactly are you? Main entrance by the fountain, Zoe replied, her voice still unsteady despite her efforts to sound okay. Be there in 2 minutes. Uncle Thomas is with me. Zoe ended the call and took a deep breath. The initial shock was wearing off, leaving behind a heavy mix of anger and humiliation that sat in her chest like a stone. She'd done nothing wrong. Nothing except being a young black girl who dared to shop in an expensive store. Inside Elite Fashions, the aftermath of the incident was still unfolding. The couple who had tried to help Zoe were engaged in a heated conversation with the store's assistant manager, who had been called from the back office when things escalated. This is absolutely unacceptable, the woman was saying, her husband nodding beside her. I've been shopping here for 8 years, and I've never seen such blatant discrimination. Mrs. Richardson, I assure you we take these matters very seriously, the assistant manager replied, glancing nervously at Diane, who stood nearby arranging dresses with jerky movements. If you could just explain exactly what happened. What happened, Mr. Richardson cut in. Is that your manager followed a teenage girl around the store like she was a criminal, refused to let her try on clothes in peace, then physically grabbed her and exposed her while she was changing. My wife and I witnessed the whole thing, and so did at least 6 other customers. Other shoppers who had lingered after the incident nodded in agreement. One woman who had been browsing scarves added, I saw her grab the girl's arm. There was no reason for that. Diane finally turned around, her face flushed. That girl was suspicious from the moment she walked in. Designer stores like ours are targeted by theft rings who send in young people to stop talking, the assistant manager whispered urgently to Diane. Then, louder to the customers, we sincerely apologize for any distress caused today. We'll be reviewing our security protocols immediately. Mrs. Richardson shook her head. That's not good enough. That young lady deserves a personal apology at minimum. And frankly, I'm reconsidering whether I want to continue shopping at a place that treats people this way. I've already called corporate. Another customer chimed in, holding up her phone. And I posted what I saw on social media. This kind of behavior shouldn't be tolerated anywhere. The assistant manager's face paled. Posted on social media? You bet I did, the woman replied, with the store name and location tagged. Outside, Zoe spotted her father's silver SUV pulling up to the curb. She stood, gathering her backpack, and walked toward it just as her dad stepped out. Gregory Taylor was not an imposing man in the traditional sense, average height with a lean build and glasses, but he carried himself with a quiet dignity that commanded respect. As a high school principal, he'd mastered the art of calm authority. Zoe, he said simply, opening his arms. She fell into them, finally allowing herself to fully feel the emotion she'd been holding back. It was awful, Dad, she whispered against his shoulder. I know, baby. I know. He held her tight, then leaned back to look at her face. Are you hurt? Zoe shook her head, then showed him her phone. Just this. And my pride, I guess. The passenger door of the SUV opened and Uncle Thomas Henderson unfolded his massive frame from the vehicle. At 7'1", with shoulders as broad as a doorway and hands that could palm a beach ball, Thomas drew immediate attention from everyone nearby. Despite being retired for 5 years, he was still instantly recognizable to basketball fans. His face appeared on billboards, commercials, and his own line of sportswear. "There's my favorite bookworm," Thomas said, his deep voice rumbling as he gave Zoe a gentle one-armed hug. "Your dad told me some store manager gave you trouble." Zoe nodded, suddenly feeling both very small and very safe between these two men who had always protected her. She thought I was stealing, or going to steal. She wouldn't even let me try on a dress without giving me a hard time. Gregory's jaw tightened. "Which store was it?" "Elite Fashions," Zoe said, pointing to the mall entrance. "The one with the gold sign." Thomas and Gregory exchanged a look that Zoe recognized from years of friendship between them. A wordless communication that needed no translation. "Let's go have a chat with the manager," Gregory said calmly. "Dad, you don't have to—" "Yes," he interrupted gently. "I do. This isn't just about you, Zoe. It's about making sure this doesn't happen to the next young person who walks through those doors." Thomas nodded in agreement. Some lessons need teaching, and some people need learning. As they approached the mall entrance, Zoe hesitated. "Can I wait out here? I don't want to go back in there." Gregory studied his daughter's face, then nodded. "Of course, we won't be long." Inside Elite Fashions, the tension had not dissipated. The assistant manager was trying to smooth things over with unhappy customers, while Diane had retreated to the back office, ostensibly to call the regional manager, but mostly to escape the growing hostility in the store. The bell above the door chimed as Gregory and Thomas entered. The conversation stopped abruptly as all eyes turned to the newcomers, particularly to Thomas, whose celebrity status was impossible to ignore. "I'm looking for the manager who was working with my daughter about 20 minutes ago," Gregory said, his voice carrying across the now silent store. "My daughter's name is Zoe Taylor." The assistant manager stepped forward, recognition and alarm flashing across her face. "Sir, I'm Lena Wilson, the assistant manager. I'm handling this situation now." "We're very sorry about what happened with your daughter." "I appreciate that," Gregory replied, "but I'd like to speak directly with the person who put hands on my child." Thomas stood slightly behind Gregory, saying nothing but radiating a presence that filled the space. A few customers had taken out their phones, recognizing the famous athlete and realizing they were witnessing something significant. Lena looked uncomfortable. "Ms. Brooks is on a call with our regional office right now. Perhaps I could take your contact information and have her call you?" "I'll wait," Gregory said simply, folding his arms. A tense minute passed. Then another. Finally, the back office door opened and Diane emerged, her confident demeanor faltering slightly when she saw the crowd still gathered in the store. Her eyes widened noticeably when she spotted Thomas. "Ms. Brooks?" Gregory stepped forward. "I'm Gregory Taylor, Zoe's father. I understand there was an incident involving my daughter earlier." Diane straightened, recovering some of her composure. "Mr. Taylor, there seems to have been a misunderstanding. We have strict security protocols in this store to prevent theft, and sometimes young people can misinterpret. Did you put your hands on my daughter?" Gregory interrupted, his voice still calm but with an edge that hadn't been there before. Diane blinked. "I merely guided her toward the exit when she became disruptive." "That's not true." Mrs. Richardson spoke up from where she stood with her husband. "We saw the whole thing. You grabbed her arm hard enough to leave marks, and you opened the fitting room door when she was only half dressed." Thomas took a step forward now, his presence impossible to ignore. "Ms. Brooks, do you know who I am?" Diane swallowed visibly. "You're Thomas Henderson." "That's right. And do you know who Zoe Taylor is to me?" No, I don't. She's like a niece to me. Her father and I have been best friends for 25 years. Thomas's voice remained conversational, but there was steel underneath. "So when I hear that someone has mistreated her, it becomes very personal to me." Whispers rippled through the store. More phones were out now, recording the confrontation. "Mr. Henderson," Diane started, her voice higher than normal. "I assure you that Elite Fashions values all our customers. If there was a misunderstanding—" "It wasn't a misunderstanding," Gregory cut in. "It was profiling. My daughter has been accepted to Princeton on a full academic scholarship. She's the captain of her swim team and volunteers teaching literacy at the community center. Today she came to your store to spend money she earned herself on a dress for her National Honor Society induction. And you treated her like a criminal because of how she looks." The store had gone completely silent. Even the background music seemed to have stopped. "I didn't," Diane began, then faltered. "You did," Thomas said simply. "And now you have a choice to make. You can double down and make excuses, or you can do better." Diane looked around at the faces watching her, customers, employees, and especially the two men standing before her. One a school principal with quiet dignity, the other a famous athlete with enormous influence. She seemed to deflate slightly, the reality of her situation sinking in. I may have overreacted, she admitted finally. It's been a difficult week with inventory shortages and I was being extra vigilant. That's not an apology, Gregory noted. And it doesn't explain why you treated my daughter differently from other customers. Lena, the assistant manager, stepped forward again. Ms. Brooks, I think we need to address this directly. Her voice was firm, making it clear that she was now taking charge of the situation. Diane hesitated, then nodded. You're right. She looked at Gregory, then Thomas. I'm sorry for how I treated your daughter. It was inappropriate and unprofessional. I'm not the one who deserves that apology, Gregory said. Would you like me to speak with her directly? Diane asked, looking genuinely uncomfortable now. I don't think that's a good idea right now, Gregory replied. She's still upset, but I would like to know what Elite Fashions plans to do to ensure this doesn't happen to someone else's child. Thomas nodded in agreement. Because this isn't just about Zoe. It's about a pattern that needs to stop. Outside, Zoe sat on a bench near the fountain, watching shoppers come and go. She wondered what was happening inside the store, and whether her dad and Uncle Thomas were making any progress. Part of her wished she'd been brave enough to go back in with them, to face Diane again and stand her ground. But another part was still too raw, too hurt. Her cracked phone screen lit up with a notification. It was already happening. Social media posts about the incident were beginning to circulate. Someone had recognized Thomas entering the mall with her dad, and speculation was building about why he was there. Zoe sighed and put the phone away. This wasn't how she'd planned to spend her day, shopping for what should have been a happy occasion. Now her phone was broken. She still didn't have a dress for tomorrow night, and what had started as a personal humiliation was quickly becoming something much bigger. She just hoped that whatever happened next would make a difference. Not just for her, but for everyone who'd ever been made to feel like they didn't belong. Inside Elite Fashions, the conversation had shifted from confrontation to consequence. Gregory Taylor stood with his arms folded, listening as Lena, the assistant manager, outlined immediate steps the store would take. We'll be implementing mandatory sensitivity training for all staff, Lena explained, shooting a glance at Diane, who stood nearby, face flushed with embarrassment. And I've already contacted our regional director who's driving in from downtown. Thomas Henderson, towering beside Gregory, nodded thoughtfully. Unlike his friend's measured approach, Thomas had built his post-basketball career on being outspoken about social issues. His deep voice carried through the store as he addressed not just the managers but everyone listening. Training is a start, he said, but real change comes from understanding the harm that was done today. That young lady out there, he pointed toward the mall entrance where Zoe waited, will remember how she was treated in this store for the rest of her life. Several customers murmured in agreement. Mrs. Richardson, who had witnessed the whole incident, stepped forward. I've been shopping here for years, but after what I saw today, I'm canceling my store credit card. The mention of lost business made Diane flinch visibly. That won't be necessary, she said quickly. This was an isolated incident, was it? Thomas interrupted. How many other young people have walked through those doors and been followed around or made to feel unwelcome because of how they look? Diane fell silent, unable to meet his gaze. A young sales associate who had been quietly arranging scarves nearby suddenly spoke up. It happens all the time. Her voice trembled slightly as all eyes turned to her. I've seen Ms. Brooks follow teenagers of color around the store plenty of times. I never said anything because I was afraid I'd lose my job. Lena looked shocked. Alice, you should have reported this. To who? Alice replied. Ms. Brooks is the manager. Gregory checked his watch. I appreciate this conversation, but my daughter is still waiting outside, upset with a broken phone. I'd like to know specifically how you plan to make this right with her. Before Lena could answer, the store's phone rang. The sales associate named Alice answered it, then held the receiver out to Lena. It's Mr. Patterson, the regional director. He says it's urgent. While Lena took the call, Gregory turned to Thomas. I should check on Zoe. She's been out there a while. Thomas nodded. I'll stay here. I think our friend Ms. Brooks and I have more to discuss. Gregory found Zoe exactly where he'd left her, sitting on the bench by the fountain, scrolling through her cracked phone screen. She looked up as he approached, eyes questioning. "How did it go?" she asked. Gregory sat beside her with a sigh. "Complicated." The manager tried to justify her behavior at first, but there were too many witnesses. The store's regional director is on his way in. Thomas is still inside being, well, Thomas. Zoe almost smiled at that. Uncle Thomas had a reputation for speaking his mind, especially when it came to standing up for what was right. She could imagine him now, using his celebrity status to make sure the situation wasn't swept under the rug. "Is she going to apologize?" Zoe asked, though she wasn't sure an apology would mean much at this point. "She already did to me and Thomas. But I told her you're the one who deserves it." Gregory squeezed his daughter's shoulder. "How are you feeling? Do you want to go home?" Zoe considered the question. Part of her wanted nothing more than to leave the mall and forget this awful day, but another part, the stronger part, wasn't ready to run away. "Actually," she said after a moment, "I still need a dress for tomorrow night." Gregory looked surprised, then proud. "You sure? We can order something online." "I'm sure." Zoe stood up, straightening her shoulders. "I came here to buy a dress, and that's what I'm going to do, just not at Elite Fashions. That's my girl." Gregory smiled, standing with her. "Let's text Thomas to let him know we're going to check out some other stores." Before they could move, Gregory's phone buzzed with a message from Thomas. "Come back in. Regional director just arrived." "Things happening," Zoe hesitated. "Do we have to?" "It's up to you," Gregory assured her. "We can walk away right now if that's what you want." Zoe thought about it, then squared her shoulders. "No, I want to go back. I want them to see me and know I'm not afraid." When they re-entered Elite Fashions, the atmosphere had changed dramatically. A tall man in an expensive suit was standing near the counter, speaking intently with Lena and Diane. Thomas stood nearby, arms crossed, looking satisfied. The man in the suit, clearly Mr. Patterson, the regional director, looked up as Zoe and her father entered. His expression shifted immediately to one of concern as he approached them, hand extended. "Mr. Taylor, I'm Robert Patterson, regional director for Elite Fashions, and you must be Zoe. I want to personally apologize for your experience in our store today." Zoe shook his hand hesitantly, noting how Diane watched from a distance, no longer looking confident or commanding. "I've been briefed on what happened," Mr. Patterson continued, "and I want you to know we're taking immediate action. Ms. Brooks has been placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation." Diane's face paled, but she said nothing. "Furthermore," he continued, "we'd like to offer you a store credit for the full amount of the dress you were interested in, plus compensation for your damaged phone." Gregory shook his head. "This isn't about money, Mr. Patterson." "I understand that," Patterson replied quickly, "but it's a starting point."
"We're also implementing new training protocols and reviewing all our security procedures to ensure this never happens again." Thomas rejoined the group, resting a huge hand on Zoe's shoulder.
"I've been telling Mr. Patterson about my foundation's work with retail diversity initiatives. Seems like Elite Fashions might benefit from participating." Patterson nodded eagerly. "We'd be honored to work with the Henderson Foundation, of course." Zoe looked around the store, taking in the faces watching this exchange. The other customers, the employees, and finally Diane, who stood slightly apart, arms wrapped around herself as if for protection. In that moment, Zoe realized something important. She didn't want revenge. She wanted change. "I don't need store credit," she said, speaking directly to Mr. Patterson, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "But I do have a request." "Of course," Patterson replied. "Anything. I want to speak with Ms. Brooks alone." A hush fell over the store. Gregory looked concerned. "Zoe, you don't have to do that." "I know, Dad, but I want to." Thomas studied her face, then nodded with approval. "Sometimes the most important conversations happen one-on-one." Mr. Patterson hesitated, then turned to Diane. "Ms. Brooks, are you willing to speak privately with Ms. Taylor?" Diane looked surprised, then wary, but she nodded. "Yes." Lena quickly led them to a small office at the back of the store, then left them alone, closing the door behind her. For a moment, neither Zoe nor Diane spoke. The silence stretched uncomfortably between them. Finally, Diane broke it. "I'm sorry about your phone." It wasn't the apology Zoe had expected, but at least it was a start. "Are you sorry about anything else?" she asked. Diane's gaze dropped to her hands. Mr. Patterson says I'm suspended. I'll probably lose my job. That's not what I asked. For the first time, Diane really looked at Zoe, not as a potential shoplifter or a problem to be handled, but as a person. A teenager who had come into her store excited about a special occasion, only to be humiliated and mistreated. I'm sorry I treated you the way I did, Diane said finally. I made assumptions based on, well, it doesn't matter what I based them on. They were wrong. Zoe sat down in one of the office chairs. Do you know why I wanted to speak with you privately? Diane shook her head. Because I didn't want this to be about Uncle Thomas or my dad forcing you to apologize. I wanted to look you in the eye, person to person. Zoe leaned forward. I need to know if you understand why what you did was wrong. Something in Diane's expression shifted. Perhaps it was the maturity in Zoe's voice, or the dignity with which she carried herself despite everything that had happened. Whatever it was, it seemed to cut through Diane's defensiveness. I do, she said quietly. I treated you differently because of how you look. I wouldn't have followed a white teenager around the store or checked their bag or barged in on them changing. I've been working here so long I stopped seeing people as individuals. I just saw categories, risks. She paused. It was wrong and I'm truly sorry. Zoe nodded slowly. Thank you for being honest. Can I ask you something? Diane ventured. Why did you come back? If I were you, I would have just left and never looked back. Because running away doesn't fix anything, Zoe replied simply. My dad always taught me that when something's wrong, you face it and try to make it right. Your father sounds like a wise man. He is. Zoe stood up. I should get back to him. We still need to find a dress for my ceremony tomorrow. As she reached for the door handle, Diane spoke again. Zoe, the emerald dress you were trying on, it looked beautiful on you. Perfect for an honor society induction. Zoe paused, surprised by the unexpected compliment. Thanks. When they emerged from the office, Gregory, Thomas, and Mr. Patterson were waiting anxiously. The store had mostly cleared of other customers, though Mrs. Richardson and her husband remained curious to see how things would resolve. Everything okay? Gregory asked his daughter. Zoe nodded. We had a good talk. Mr. Patterson stepped forward, addressing both Zoe and Diane. I've made a decision. Ms. Brooks will be on paid leave for 2 weeks while she completes our new sensitivity training program. Upon her return, she'll work with a mentor from our corporate office to implement the new store policies. He turned specifically to Zoe. And I'd like to invite you to be part of our customer advisory panel to help us develop those policies. Thomas raised an eyebrow. That's a lot of responsibility for a high school student with college applications to focus on. It's okay, Uncle Thomas, Zoe said. I'd like to help. If something good can come from today, then it wasn't all bad. As they prepared to leave, Lena approached with a garment bag. The emerald dress, she explained. It's yours if you want it. No charge. Zoe hesitated, then shook her head. I appreciate the gesture, but I think I'll shop elsewhere today. Diane, who had been quiet since their private conversation, suddenly spoke up. Wait. She disappeared into the back room and returned moments later with a different dress, a stunning royal purple gown with subtle silver detailing. This just came in yesterday. We haven't even put it on the floor yet. She held it out to Zoe. Would you at least try it on? As a personal apology from me, not the store. Zoe looked at the dress, then at her father, who gave a small nod indicating it was her decision to make. Okay, she said finally. I'll try it on. As Zoe followed Lena to the fitting rooms, properly this time with privacy and respect, Thomas turned to Gregory with a small smile. Your daughter's something special, you know that? Gregory nodded, watching Zoe walk away with her head held high. I've always known it. Today, she just reminded the rest of the world. The royal purple dress fit Zoe perfectly, as if it had been made with her in mind. Standing in the fitting room, she turned slowly before the mirror, watching how the fabric caught the light. Shifting from deep purple to an almost iridescent blue, the silver threading along the neckline complemented her dark skin, making it glow. What do you think? Lena asked from outside the door. Zoe opened the door and stepped out. The small crowd that had gathered, her father, Uncle Thomas, Mr. Patterson, and even Diane, fell silent. Wow, Gregory said simply. Thomas let out a low whistle. Princeton won't know what hit them. Zoe couldn't help but smile. Despite everything that had happened, Standing there in that beautiful dress made her feel powerful. She caught Diane's eye and saw something unexpected there. Genuine admiration, not just apology. "It's perfect for you," Diane said softly. "I knew it would be." Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. "The dress is a gift from Elite Fashions, of course, along with anything else you might need for your ceremony." "That's not necessary," Gregory started to say, but Mr. Patterson held up a hand. "Please, it's the least we can do." He glanced at Thomas, and as Mr. Henderson suggested, "We'd like to make a donation to the scholarship fund at your high school, Mr. Taylor, for students who might not otherwise have the opportunity to shop in stores like ours." Thomas nodded approval. "Good start." While Zoe returned to the fitting room to change, Gregory and Thomas spoke quietly with Mr. Patterson about more substantive changes the store could make. The incident had exposed problems deeper than one manager's behavior, and they wanted to ensure real transformation would follow. Lena approached the fitting room with a garment bag for the purple dress. "When you're ready, I'll have this all packaged up for you," she told Zoe through the door. "And if you'd like, I can help you find accessories to match. Shoes, maybe a clutch?" Zoe, pulling her t-shirt back over her head, felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of her was still angry about what had happened earlier, but another part appreciated the effort everyone was making to make things right. And she did need shoes to go with the dress. That would be nice. "Thank you." 20 minutes later, Zoe left Elite Fashions with not only the purple dress, but also a pair of silver heels and a matching clutch purse. Mr. Patterson insisted on providing a store gift card as well, which Zoe reluctantly accepted after her father suggested she could use it to help some of her friends find outfits for future school events. As they walked through the mall, Thomas's phone kept buzzing with notifications. He checked it and chuckled. "What's so funny?" Gregory asked. "Social media's blowing up. Someone posted about what happened, and now there's video of us walking into the store. Elite Fashions is trending," Zoe groaned. "Great, so now everyone will know. Is that a bad thing?" Thomas asked gently. "I don't know. I just wanted to buy a dress, not become some viral story." They stopped at the food court for a late lunch, finding a quiet table in the corner where Thomas would be less likely to be recognized. As they ate, Gregory noticed his daughter was unusually quiet. "Penny, for your thoughts," he said. Zoe pushed her fries around on her plate. "I keep thinking about what Diane said during our private talk, about how she stopped seeing people as individuals and just saw categories." Thomas leaned forward, interested. "That's pretty insightful of her." "Yeah. It made me wonder how many other people do that without even realizing it." Zoe looked up at her father. "Do you think she'll actually change?" Gregory considered the question. People can change when they're confronted with the consequences of their actions. Some choose to become defensive and double down. Others reflect and grow. It's up to her which path she takes. "Mr. Patterson seems serious about making changes at the store, at least," Thomas added. "Because you're famous," Zoe pointed out. "If you hadn't been there, none of this would have happened. They would have just kicked me out and that would be the end of it." Thomas and Gregory exchanged looks. "That's probably true," Thomas acknowledged. "And that's exactly why I use my platform the way I do. But Zoe, don't underestimate the impact of your own dignity today. The way you handled yourself, coming back, asking to speak with Diane privately, approaching the situation with maturity instead of just anger, that matters too." Zoe's phone buzzed with an incoming call. She glanced at the cracked screen and frowned. "Unknown number." "You don't have to answer it," Gregory said. Curiosity won out and Zoe accepted the call. "Hello? Is this Zoe Taylor?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes, who's this?" "My name is Kimberly Chen from the Metro Times. I'm a reporter covering local news. We've received several tips about an incident at Elite Fashions today involving you and basketball star Thomas Henderson. I was hoping to get your statement." Zoe's eyes widened as she looked at her father and Thomas. "A reporter," she mouthed. Thomas held out his hand for the phone. Zoe gladly passed it over. "Ms. Chen, Thomas Henderson here. Yes, I was at Elite Fashions today supporting my friend's daughter. No, I'm not giving a statement at this time, and neither is Zoe. She's a minor, and this is a private matter." He paused, listening. "I understand you're doing your job, but I'm asking you to respect her privacy. If there's a larger story to be told about retail discrimination, I'd be happy to discuss that with you another time, but not today and not using Zoe's name. Thank you." He ended the call and handed the phone back to Zoe. "That's just the beginning. Once the media picks up on a story like this, they can be persistent. Great, Zoe sighed. Maybe we should head home, Gregory suggested. It's been a long day already. As they gathered their things to leave, a young girl approached their table hesitantly. She couldn't have been more than 12, with braided hair and bright eyes that kept darting between Zoe and Thomas. "Excuse me," she said shyly. "Are you Mr. Henderson, the basketball player?" Thomas smiled warmly. "That's me. What's your name?" "Lily." She glanced at Zoe again. "Are you the girl from the store? The one who stood up to the mean lady?" Zoe blinked in surprise. "How did you—" "It's all over TikTok. My big sister showed me." Lily looked down at her shoes, then back up with admiration in her eyes. "I just wanted to say you're really brave. My mom says we shouldn't shop in fancy stores because people look at us funny. But maybe one day I can be brave like you." Before Zoe could respond, a woman hurried over. "Lily, don't bother these people." "I'm so sorry," she said to Thomas and Gregory. "She recognized you from across the food court and insisted on coming over." "It's no bother at all," Thomas assured her. Zoe stood and extended her hand to Lily. "It's nice to meet you. And your mom's right to be cautious, but you should also know that you belong anywhere you want to be. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." Lily beamed, shaking Zoe's hand with enthusiasm. "Can I take a picture with you? Both of you?" she asked, looking between Zoe and Thomas. Thomas glanced at Zoe, letting her make the decision. "Sure," Zoe agreed, surprising herself. Maybe there was value in being visible after all. After the photo and a few autographs from Thomas, they finally made it to the parking lot. As they approached Gregory's SUV, Thomas's phone rang. He checked the display and raised his eyebrows. "It's my foundation director," he said before answering. "Hey Vicky, yes, I heard it's trending. Actually, I think we have an opportunity here." While Thomas took the call, Gregory turned to his daughter. "You okay with all this? It's becoming bigger than we expected." Zoe hugged the garment bag containing her new dress. "I think so. That little girl, Lily, it made me realize this isn't just about me or what happened today. That's my wise girl." Gregory wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "I'm proud of you. Not just for standing up for yourself, but for how you've handled everything." Thomas rejoined them, slipping his phone into his pocket with a thoughtful expression. "So Vicky had an interesting idea. The Henderson Foundation has been looking for a new youth ambassador for our retail equity initiative. Someone who can speak to young people about self-worth and belonging in spaces that haven't always been welcoming." Zoe stared at him. "Are you asking me?" "It would involve some public speaking, media training, meetings with retail executives. It's not a small commitment. But your voice could make a real difference." Thomas smiled. "Think about it." "No pressure." Gregory looked concerned. "She's got her senior year to focus on. College applications, swim team." "Dad," Zoe interrupted gently. "I can make my own decisions, remember?" Gregory nodded, chagrined. "You're right. I'm sorry." "I'll think about it," Zoe told Thomas. "But first I have an honor society ceremony to get ready for." As they drove home, Zoe's phone continued to buzz with notifications. Friends had spotted her in social media posts and were flooding her with questions. The story was spreading fast, taking on a life of its own. "You might want to turn that off for a while," Gregory suggested, noticing her growing discomfort with the attention. "Yeah." Zoe switched her phone to silent and stared out the window, watching the city pass by. So much had changed in just a few hours. What had started as a simple shopping trip had turned into something that might affect not only her life, but potentially the lives of others like her, like Lily. Thomas, sitting in the passenger seat, seemed to read her thoughts. "You know, sometimes the most important moments in our lives aren't the ones we plan. They're the moments that find us, that test us." "Is that how you felt when you were drafted?" Zoe asked, knowing the story of how Thomas had gone from a kid in public housing to a basketball phenomenon. "Exactly like that." Thomas turned to look at her. "The question isn't whether these moments will find us, they will. The question is what we do when they do. And today, Zoe, you showed exactly who you are." That evening, as she hung the purple dress in her closet and prepared for the next day's ceremony, Zoe thought about everything that had happened. The humiliation, the anger, the confrontation, and finally, the unexpected opportunity to create change. Her phone, charging on her desk, lit up with a text from an unknown number. Curious, she checked it. "This is Diane Brooks from Elite Fashions. Mr. Patterson gave me your number." I wanted to thank you for our conversation today and let you know I've been thinking about what you said. I've enrolled in a diversity workshop outside of what the company requires. I have a lot to learn. I hope your ceremony goes well tomorrow. That dress was made for you. Zoe read the message twice, surprised by the unexpected follow-up. She wasn't sure how to respond or if she should respond at all. Finally, she typed back a simple message. Thank you. Every day is a chance to see people differently. She pressed send, then placed her phone face down on the desk. Tomorrow would be about celebrating her academic achievements. But today had taught her something no classroom ever could, about standing up, speaking out, and the unexpected paths that open when you do. The school auditorium buzzed with excitement as families filed in for the National Honor Society induction ceremony. Parents balanced bouquets of flowers and cameras, eager to capture their children's achievements. Zoe sat backstage with the other inductees, smoothing the skirt of her royal purple dress nervously. That dress is amazing, whispered Tanya, her friend since freshman year. Is it new? Zoe nodded. Got it yesterday. At Elite Fashions? Isn't that the place where… Tanya stopped, realizing she might be treading into sensitive territory. The video of Thomas Henderson confronting the store manager had spread like wildfire across social media overnight. Yes, that's the place, Zoe confirmed with a small smile. It's been a wild 24 hours. Everyone's talking about it. You're like a hero now. Zoe shook her head. I'm not a hero. I just stood up for myself, which is exactly what makes you heroic, said Ms. Rivera, their faculty advisor, who had overheard the conversation. Standing up for yourself when it would be easier to stay quiet. That takes courage. She gave Zoe's shoulder a gentle squeeze before moving on to check on the other students. From her seat, Zoe could see her parents in the third row. Her mother had flown in from a business trip just in time, landing at the airport barely 2 hours ago. Next to them sat Uncle Thomas, looking somewhat out of place in the school auditorium with his imposing height, but beaming with pride nonetheless. Several people kept glancing his way, whispering excitedly about the celebrity in their midst. Principal Wilson approached the podium, and the room gradually fell silent. Good evening, families and friends. Tonight we celebrate exceptional students who have demonstrated excellence not only in academics but in character, leadership, and service. As the ceremony began, Zoe tried to focus on the moment, this achievement she had worked so hard for rather than the events of yesterday. But when Principal Wilson called her name and she rose to walk across the stage, she couldn't help noticing the extra whispers and phone cameras that followed her. Zoe Taylor, Principal Wilson announced, maintains a 4.0 GPA while captaining our swim team and volunteering at the Community Literacy Center. She has been accepted to Princeton University on a full academic scholarship. The applause seemed louder than it had been for the previous students. As Principal Wilson placed the NHS pin on her dress and handed her the certificate, he added quietly, "We're all very proud of you. Zoe, for everything." She smiled, knowing he wasn't just referring to her academic achievements. After the ceremony, families gathered in the school cafeteria for refreshments. Zoe stood with her parents accepting congratulations from teachers and classmates. When she noticed a familiar face approaching, Mr. Patterson from Elite Fashions, looking somewhat out of place in his designer suit among the casual attire of most parents. "Zoe," he greeted her warmly, "congratulations on your induction. You look stunning in that dress." "Thank you for coming, Mr. Patterson," she replied, genuinely surprised to see him there. "I hope you don't mind. Mr. Henderson mentioned the ceremony, and I wanted to see this important moment for you." He handed her a small gift bag, a token of appreciation for your grace yesterday, and a celebration of your achievements today. Inside the bag was a beautiful silver bracelet with a single charm, a small but exquisite purple gemstone that matched her dress perfectly. "It's lovely," Zoe said, touched by the gesture. "Thank you." "There's something else I wanted to tell you," Mr. Patterson continued. "After yesterday's events, our corporate office has decided to launch a new initiative focusing on inclusive shopping experiences. We're calling it Belonging in Retail, and we'd be honored if you would consider being involved as a student consultant." Gregory, standing protectively beside his daughter, raised an eyebrow. "That sounds like a significant commitment." "It would be very limited during the school year," Mr. Patterson assured him. Perhaps a monthly meeting. We want to learn from Zoe's experience, not overwhelm her schedule. Before Zoe could respond, they were interrupted by a group of excited freshmen asking for a photo with Thomas, who had been cornered near the punch bowl by enthusiastic basketball fans. Duty calls? Thomas laughed, making his way over to rescue his friend. Mr. Patterson, good to see you following through. Just the beginning, Patterson assured him. As the evening wound down, Zoe found a quiet moment with her parents and Thomas. So, her mother began, your father filled me in on yesterday's adventure. I'm sorry I wasn't there. It's okay. Mom, Dad and Uncle Thomas handled it pretty well. From what I hear, you handled it best of all. She smoothed a strand of hair from Zoe's face with a tender gesture, though I'm not surprised. You've always had a strong sense of justice, even as a little girl. Thomas checked his phone and whistled softly. Well, the story's officially gone national. Just got a text from my publicist. 3 major networks want interviews. Zoe groaned. Seriously? Can't we just let it die down? Unfortunately, no, Thomas replied. But we can control the narrative. Use the attention to focus on the real issues, not just what happened to you specifically. The real issues being retail discrimination, the way people of color are treated in high-end spaces, the assumptions made about who belongs where. Thomas looked at her seriously. This isn't just about one bad manager or one bad day. It's systemic. Gregory and his wife exchanged glances. It's a lot to put on a 17-year-old, Gregory said cautiously. It is, Thomas agreed. And if Zoe wants to step back from the spotlight, I'll make sure that happens. But sometimes life gives us a platform when we least expect it. Zoe thought about Lily, the young girl at the mall, and the text from Diane. She thought about how many other people might have similar experiences every day without a famous uncle to help them be heard. Maybe there was a reason this had happened to her specifically, someone with the words to speak about it and people who would listen. I don't want interviews, she decided, at least not yet. But I do want to work with Elite Fashions on their initiative, and maybe with your foundation too, Uncle Thomas. If I'm going to be part of this conversation, I want it to be constructive, Thomas beamed with pride. Wise beyond your years, as always. 3 months later, Zoe stood at a podium in the grand reopening of Elite Fashions. The store had been closed for renovations. Not just physical changes, but a complete overhaul of their training, hiring practices, and customer service approach. When I walked into this store 3 months ago, she began, facing the crowd of reporters, retail executives, and community members, I was just looking for a dress. What I found instead was a reminder that we still have work to do as a society. In the audience, she could see her parents and Uncle Thomas watching proudly. Beside them sat Mr. Patterson and, surprisingly, Diane Brooks. After completing extensive training, Diane had been given a second chance, not as a manager, but as part of the new customer relations team, specifically focused on creating welcoming experiences for young shoppers. Retail spaces aren't just about buying and selling, Zoe continued. They're about dignity, about being seen as a person worthy of respect and service. Everyone deserves that basic courtesy regardless of age, appearance, or the color of their skin. Over the past months, Zoe had worked with Thomas's foundation and Elite Fashions to develop new training protocols. She'd spoken to groups of retail employees about her experience and listened to their perspectives as well. What had begun as a humiliating incident had evolved into something powerful and positive. Today, we're not just reopening a store, she said. We're opening a conversation about belonging, about who gets to feel comfortable in which spaces and why. It's a conversation that's long overdue. After the ceremony, as people mingled and explored the redesigned store, Diane approached Zoe hesitantly. I wanted to thank you, she said, not just for giving me a second chance, but for helping me see things differently. I've learned so much these past months. Zoe nodded. We all have. Your dress that day, the purple one, it really was perfect on you. I knew it would be. It served me well. Zoe smiled. I still wear it sometimes to remind myself. Remind yourself of what happened? No. To remind myself that change is possible. That one moment doesn't define us, what we do afterward does. As Zoe moved through the store, now featuring diverse mannequins, inclusive sizing, and staff who reflected the community they served, she noticed a young black girl about 14 years old admiring a display of formal dresses. The girl's mother stood nearby, watching cautiously as a sales associate approached them. "Can I help you find anything?" the associate asked warmly. "My daughter has a school dance coming up," the mother replied, her tone suggesting she was waiting for the dismissive treatment she'd experienced before. Instead, the associate smiled genuinely. "That's exciting. We have some beautiful options that would be perfect. Would you like to see our newest collection?" The girl nodded eagerly, and as the associate led them toward the fitting rooms, she caught Zoe's eye and mouthed a silent, "Thank you." Later that evening, as Zoe sat in her bedroom working on college scholarship essays, her phone buzzed with a text from Uncle Thomas. "Proud of you today, kid. You're changing the world one store at a time." She smiled and texted back, "Small changes. Long way to go." His response came quickly. "Every movement starts with one person standing up. Keep standing." Zoe glanced at the purple dress hanging in her closet, now a symbol of something much bigger than a school ceremony. Next to it hung a framed photo from the Honor Society induction. Zoe in her purple dress, surrounded by her parents and Uncle Thomas, all beaming with pride. Next week, she would start training a group of high school students to become retail ambassadors. Young people prepared to navigate shopping experiences with confidence and advocate for respectful treatment. The program had already drawn interest from schools across the city. She turned back to her laptop, where she was working on an essay titled "Finding Your Voice in Unexpected Places." The prompt asked, about a moment that had changed her perspective on the world. Zoe's fingers hovered over the keyboard as she considered how to capture everything that had happened since that day at the mall, how one painful moment had opened doors she never knew existed, how standing up for herself had somehow led to standing up for others. She began to type, "I went shopping for a dress and found my purpose instead." Outside her window, the city lights twinkled in the darkness. Somewhere out there, another young person might be facing their own moment of injustice, their own opportunity to stand or stay silent. Zoe hoped her story might give them the courage to speak up, to be heard. After all, change didn't always come from grand gestures or famous faces. Sometimes it started with one person saying, "And this isn't right," and sometimes that was enough to start something that mattered.